Union. This as the president is facing a 60% disapproval rating in a new ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent Selena Wang.
Tonight, just days before President Trump delivers his State of the Union address, new polling shows most Americans disapprove of his job in office. Trump's disapproval rating stands at 60%, the highest of his second term. That's according to the latest ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll. A significant poll.
New national polling released just days before the State of the Union shows a majority of Americans disapprove of President Trump's job performance. The survey indicates a 60% disapproval rating, marking the highest level recorded during his current term. The findings reflect growing concerns among voters about inflation, tariffs, and the administration's handling of international relationships. The numbers arrive at a pivotal political moment, with lawmakers preparing for a nationally televised address expected to outline the president's economic and foreign policy priorities. Public opinion data suggests frustration across party lines, with many respondents expressing skepticism about Washington's ability to address rising costs and economic uncertainty. The poll also highlights broader divisions within the electorate, underscoring a volatile political climate as both parties position themselves ahead of upcoming legislative battles.
Portion of Americans disapprove of how Trump is handling inflation, tariffs, and relations with other countries. And a majority say the president does not have the mental or physical health to effectively serve as president. It comes after the Supreme Court dealt a staggering blow to the president's signature economic policy, declaring most of his sweeping tariffs on foreign imports are illegal. But the president moving swiftly to impose 15% global tariffs under a different legal authority.
We found ways to really reconstruct what we're doing. Now it doesn't have the same flexibility, but it gives us very durable tools.
Meanwhile, the partial government shutdown dragging on with no end in sight. Democrats are demanding changes to
The polling follows a significant legal setback after the Supreme Court ruled that most of the administration's sweeping tariffs on foreign imports were unlawful. In response, the White House moved quickly to implement a revised tariff structure under a different legal authority. Supporters argue the move preserves leverage in trade negotiations, while critics contend it adds further economic strain. At the same time, a partial government shutdown continues with no immediate resolution. Negotiations remain stalled as lawmakers debate immigration enforcement policies and federal spending priorities. Taken together, the legal challenges, economic pressures, and shutdown impasse have intensified scrutiny ahead of the president's address. As Washington prepares for heightened security and political messaging, another rare and high-stakes development is unfolding overseas, this time in the Arctic.
Overseas now to an extraordinary medical mission. A U.S. Navy sailor in need of urgent medical care was evacuated from a nuclear-powered submarine by Danish military forces near Greenland. Here's ABC's Lama Hassan.
Tonight, a U.S. Navy sailor is recovering in the hospital after suffering a medical emergency on board a nuclear submarine near the icy waters of Greenland. That rescue caught on camera just miles off the coast near the capital Nuuk. The submarine breaking from its mission. Military officials say the sailor was medevaced after needing urgent medical help.
A U.S. Navy sailor is recovering after a medical emergency forced a nuclear-powered submarine to surface near Greenland in an extraordinary rescue operation. Danish military forces assisted in evacuating the crew member by helicopter to a hospital in the capital of Nuuk. Officials described the medevac as highly unusual given the classified nature of submarine deployments. Submarines typically operate under strict secrecy, and their locations are rarely disclosed. Breaking from mission protocol underscores the urgency of the medical situation. The operation required coordination between U.S. and Danish authorities in Arctic waters known for extreme weather and limited infrastructure. Though officials have not disclosed the nature of the medical emergency, they confirm the sailor is receiving care and is in stable condition.
Denmark's Joint Arctic Command evacuating the crew member on a Seahawk helicopter to a hospital in the capital. Tensions had been growing recently between the U.S. and Denmark after President Trump threatened to take over Greenland, angering NATO allies.
Lindsay, we don't know the nature of this medical rescue, and the U.S. Navy never discloses anything about its submarines deployments around the world. All missions are classified, and so are their movements, which is why this type of rescue mission is incredibly rare.
The rescue unfolds amid recent diplomatic tensions between the United States and Denmark over Greenland's strategic significance. Military experts note that Arctic operations demand precise coordination due to environmental hazards and geopolitical sensitivities. The incident highlights both the risks faced by service members deployed in remote theaters and the importance of international cooperation during emergencies. While submarine missions remain classified, this rare evacuation has drawn attention to the complexity of Arctic security dynamics. As that high-profile rescue concludes, attention shifts back to the western United States, where winter hazards are presenting fresh dangers.
Injuries when two avalanches hit the same ski area just hours apart. Next tonight, more dangerous avalanches in the west. 3 backcountry skiers were hurt in 2 avalanches in Utah on Saturday. The local sheriff says they were rescued by other skiers and taken to hospitals. And a photographer captured these images of one in Yosemite National Park in California. The park was closed at...
Authorities in Utah report that 3 backcountry skiers were injured in 2 separate avalanches over the weekend. Fellow skiers assisted in rescue efforts before the injured were transported to hospitals. Meanwhile, dramatic footage captured an avalanche inside Yosemite National Park in California. The park was closed at the time, and no injuries were reported there. Avalanche conditions can shift rapidly due to snowfall, wind patterns, and temperature changes. Experts caution that backcountry terrain carries heightened risk, particularly following significant winter storms. Rescue operations in remote mountain regions are often complicated by limited access and unstable snowpack. The incidents serve as a reminder that winter recreation demands constant awareness and preparation.
At the time, unfortunately, there were no injuries. The DHS is backtracking on suspending its TSA PreCheck program at the nation's airports. That program allows travelers to join shorter security lines. The suspension was blamed on the partial government shutdown that impacts Homeland Security. The agency reversed course just hours later, and PreCheck lanes are back in operation.
Avalanche forecasters continue to monitor snowpack stability across western states. Heavy snowfall followed by fluctuating temperatures can weaken layers beneath the surface, increasing the likelihood of slides. Outdoor enthusiasts are advised to check local advisories, carry proper safety equipment, and avoid high-risk slopes during unstable conditions. Search and rescue teams emphasize the importance of traveling with partners and maintaining communication devices in remote areas. While recent rescues were successful, officials warn that avalanche survival often depends on immediate response within minutes. As winter hazards challenge travelers in the mountains, confusion has also unfolded at airports nationwide over a key security program.
When we come back, danger at a demolition derby when one of the vehicles wound up in the stands. The
Department of Homeland Security briefly suspended the TSA PreCheck program, citing impacts from the ongoing partial government shutdown, before reversing course hours later. The temporary suspension created confusion at airports as travelers questioned whether expedited security lanes would remain operational. TSA PreCheck allows approved passengers to use shorter screening lines and streamlined procedures. The abrupt announcement prompted concerns about delays, staffing, and the broader ripple effects of the shutdown on transportation infrastructure. Officials later confirmed that PreCheck lanes would continue operating, restoring the program and alleviating immediate disruption.
Several spectators were hurt in a crash at a demolition derby in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Video from the event shows one of the cars breaking through a safety barrier and into the crowd. Police say there were no serious injuries, but the event was shut down after that incident.
The reversal underscores the operational strain federal agencies face during funding lapses. Even short-lived policy changes can produce widespread uncertainty across major travel hubs. Industry analysts note that airport security systems rely heavily on workforce stability and clear communication, particularly during peak travel seasons. While the immediate issue was resolved, the episode highlights how government shutdowns can affect routine services in unexpected ways. As lawmakers continue negotiations in Washington, travelers and federal employees alike remain attentive to further developments. Tonight's remaining headlines reflect a nation navigating political division, global responsibilities, and everyday safety concerns. New polling reveals deep public frustration ahead of a high-stakes State of the Union address. A rare Arctic submarine evacuation underscores both military risk and international cooperation. Avalanche incidents in the West highlight the dangers of winter recreation. And confusion over TSA PreCheck illustrates how government gridlock can ripple through daily life. Which of these stories do you think carries the greatest long-term consequence? Stay informed by liking, commenting, and subscribing for continued coverage as these developments evolve.